Post-match chat with chaps for that Millwall podcast where it finished at the Den. Millwall 2, Queen's Park Rangers 0. Back to winning ways at the Den. And it's about time we heard rocking all over the world, wasn't it? We haven't heard that since the 20th of September, would you believe, when we beat Rotherham 3-0. The perfect Christmas present given to us from the boys yesterday in a game that I think we had to win, quite simply. And we got the job done. But yeah, perfect Christmas presents. Definitely beats the vests and pants and crap I got. I guess it's just part of being a married man. And speaking of being a married man, it's the first time we've won since I've been a married man, because it's been 3 months since we last won at the Den. So very much needed for the club, for the manager, for the players, I think for the fans. 3 points yesterday was a must. And we got the job done. Before we go into a bit more detail, I just wanted to say, hopefully everyone had a fantastic Christmas. Whether you spent it with family, friends, loved ones, hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. And again, just to thank you all very much for the support of this video and the channel as a whole throughout the year. So thank you all very, very much. And hopefully you all were able to enjoy Boxing Day a little bit more, knowing that we had 3 points. So look, I mean, I didn't review the Stoke game because I was at the darts, to be perfectly honest. So I didn't actually watch the game. It didn't really sound like I missed much. So, you know, I think coming into this game, we'd won 1 in 13, which is obviously not good enough. However, I did feel as though things were starting to improve. I think that, you know, the Leicester performance and result was no disgrace. A couple of sucker punches against Huddersfield, Sunderland, a point up at Stoke with a new manager. You know, you start to get the feeling that things are starting to improve. Although I know that the 500 odd fans, and fair play to those that did go to Stoke, weren't particularly impressed with the performance. But a couple more comments on that a little bit later. But we go into this game and, you know, QPR could they have leapfrogged us, or at least gone level on points if they'd have beaten us? And they had a bit of an upturn since is it Fuentes? I think I pronounced his name right. Has come in, and you know, QPR have been a bit of a bogey side for us, haven't they, over the years at home? So it was one of those games that really we had to win. And let's start then with the team that Joe Edwards put out. So he made 4 changes. Some bold decisions that were made, and in the end, obviously they paid off. But the changes he made. So first, obviously, I'll go through the team. So Sarkic in goal, and then I think it was a back 3. I think it can change depending on the sort of systems we played, and at times with the press that we had on, at times it had 4 up front. But my take on the formation, if you like, was a back 3 of Ryan Leonard, or it could have been Ryan Leonard at right back. I really don't know. But Ryan Leonard was on the right-hand side, Harding and Cooper, and then Joe Bryan on the left-hand side, Norton Cuffy further forward on the right. So it could be a 4, it could be a 3. The 2 central midfielders were George Saville and George Honeyman. So 2 Georges in the centre of the park. And I'll come back to George Honeyman in a minute. And then the kind of front 3 were Duncan Watmore and Idemo and Maku coming into the starting lineup either side of Tom Bradshaw. So the changes were Fleming coming out of the side, Murray Wallace coming out of the side, Billy Mitchell coming out of the side, and the other one was Murray Wallace, Zian Fleming, Billy Mitchell, and Kevin Nisbet. So they were the 4 coming out the side. Some bold decisions, and I think not only with the personnel that he chose, but obviously it was a slight tweak in formation, and also to play Honeyman in the centre of midfield over Billy Mitchell. Incidentally, Campbell wasn't even on the bench. The bench is starting to look a bit stronger with the players coming back. You know, to have the likes of, you know, Romain Esse on the bench, Kevin Nisbet, Longman was on the bench, wasn't used. Obviously, the experience of Murray Wallace and Sean Hutchinson, Danny McNamara, the bench is looking a bit better. So that was a team that was put together, and I was quite happy with that starting lineup, to be honest. I think Fleming does need to come out of the team. We'll talk more about him. Um, and in fairness to George Honeyman, he's never really been given a crack at his preferred position, which is more centrally. So that was an interesting call. And then, I think Nisbet coming out of the side with Bradshaw being up front was another one. And then, of course, Mr. Imaku coming into the starting lineup, and we'll talk more about his performance as we go on. So that was the team anyway. And I think the first sort of 15, 20 minutes, I felt we started well. And it was just kind of that final ball, or, a couple of times the ball went across the box and we couldn't quite get onto it. We didn't create bundles, admittedly, but we definitely, had control of the game, although the possession stats will tell you otherwise. They had a lot of the possession just sort of fanning around with it at the back. Which I just don't get, the amount of teams that come down to the Dens that aren't that good and try and play it from the back. I just don't get it. I know it's this modern style and blah blah blah, but QPR are not that good, and I think QPR are in danger. They've got a couple of very very talented players, but other than that, I think they're a very average side. And QPR fans, if you're listening, I do sort of think that you're a poor side. And I think from our perspective, you can only beat what's in front of you, and that's why I'm not going to get too carried away with the performance yesterday, and why I think bigger tests are for us to come. But anyway, going back to the game, sort of first 20-25 minutes, couple of opportunities. I think what was clear was we were pressing them very, very high. They had quite a lot of goal kicks, and the way that we were set up was really interesting because we'd have the front three and then Saville or Honeyman also pushing further forwards, trying to force the mistakes at times. We did. Jimmy Dunn brought Tom Bradshaw down. We had a free kick from Honeyman, and we were making the kind of early run-ins in the game. However, they always, with players like Elias Chair, I can't stand him, by the way, but in terms of ability, he's always got something in his locker because he's a very, very good player at this level. And a mistake from Cooper enables them to create an opening on 27 where in the end, I think it goes for a corner and then cleared away. But they do have one or two talented players. Coincidentally, I felt two of them more talented players were on the bench and didn't come on. I don't know whether they're injured, but Willock is a very good player at this level, and Sinclair Armstrong is always friends with Imaku, and he's a very similar player in terms of kind of that raw potential, power and pace. So was surprised he didn't come on. But that was kind of their main opening in the first half. And then the first half, we definitely shaded it. I don't think there's any denying, but it wasn't the greatest football match in the world. Again, what looked like two poor sides. But we do create an opportunity. The ball's pumped forward to Bradshaw. Bradshaw does well to outmuscle the defender, bring the ball down, link play. I think he feeds Watmore. Watmore then plays a really good ball into Saville. Saville gets into the area. And I do think Saville means to cut it back. I don't think he's shooting. He cuts it back, and then there is no way this should ever be a goal because it goes past two QPR defenders who both just leave it. And if that was us, you would be hollering at the play. Like, they literally just watch it back. Both of them just completely leave the ball. They obviously don't realise that Bradshaw, right place, right time, at the back post, and taps it into an empty net. And we go 1-0 up, and it's the best time to score. And obviously, it gives us a real bit of momentum coming into the second half. What I would say is, and Edwards actually addressed this in his post-match interview, it didn't really, no, it was Joe Bryan actually, it didn't really change the halftime team talk because actually the performance was still the performance, and Edwards wanted to see more from us. There were a lot of misplaced passes yesterday. Cooper in particular, I felt, and I'm not just picking on him, but I felt his distribution, it leaves a lot to be desired. I think all the time he plays on the left side of a back three, he's more exposed to it. I think he's better suited when he plays more centrally. But we don't have a left-sided centre back other than Murray Wallace at the moment. So we go in half-time 1-0 up. We shaded it. I think that 1-0 probably flattered us slightly, but we were definitely the better side. And then as the second half kind of grew on, it was evident we would need the second goal. I think that we had a big chance. I think it was on 50 minutes where I don't think, is it Kenneth Powell possibly goes down way too easily. It was never a foul. Imaku robs him of the ball. Um, and then Imaku uses his pace. He drives at the box. And he's got two opportunities. He can either play Bradshaw in early, or I think it's Watmore. He can sort of square it to Watmore, who was at the back post. He does neither. And I think this is where Imaku, and I will talk more individually about him later, but this is where he still needs to learn, because he makes the wrong decision. He dallies on it a bit too much, and he takes the shot from a tight angle. It's never really going to trouble Begovic. And you know, that there, we could have got the second goal, and we it would have just, you know, completely changed the complexion of the game. I think that we haven't had that cushion of a second goal for a long time in our matches. So that would have completely changed the complexion. Instead, we didn't. And then I think between sort of 55 and 75, it was very much nothing really was happening. I felt that we maintained energy until that time, and then it did start to waver a little bit. So, you know, credit to Joe Edwards. He made some substitutions. You know, he took off two front men and changed them for two front men. And I felt that, you know, he was just trying to keep the intensity there. And then there were two chances in 2 minutes, one for either side. So their first proper chance of the second half, and it was, in my opinion, their best chance. I think it was on 79, where the ball is hung up to the back post. I don't know if it's a free kick or a cross. And then Reggie Cannon, who's come on as a substitute for them, unmarked back post, fires it low and hard, and it is a whisker away from going in. That was by far the best opportunity that QPR created. And let's be honest, the way things have been going for us recently, that goes in. You know, we've not been getting the rub of the green. We've just not had that little bit of luck. But yesterday it didn't. And there were a couple of nearly moments where, you know, I did feel at times QPR players went down a little bit easily. There was a tangle in the box with Saville, and I don't know if it was Dykes or someone else. And then it came out across, and Sarkic comes running out, and Cannon goes down. I mean, Cannon should have been booked for diving because it was never a foul. But the Saville one was a bit of a tangle of legs. You know, that would have been given as a penalty recently. There were just things that kind of went for us yesterday. And this is why football is such fine margins, because I don't know if we've been a million miles away. You know, in theory, we could have had, you know, at least beat Huddersfield or Sunderland, at least with a little bit more rub of the green at home. And this is where these little bits of luck and the ball falling for you, these little sort of decisions in the final third that we still need to improve, make a huge difference. We then have a chance with Ian Fleming. It's lined up. He bends one left-footed. He's obviously come on for, I think it was for Watmore, and it goes just a whisker wide. And you know, you get to kind of 80 minutes at 1-0, and it's sort of that squeaky bum time. And you're thinking, here we go again with Sunderland and Huddersfield. You know, and I did think it had the Sunderland and Huddersfield game, you know, writing all over it, to be honest, in terms of what may or may not happen. But it doesn't. And we do get the second goal around the 90th minute. So actually what happens is we have a throw-in. Leonard takes, it then gets recycled back to Leonard. He plays a ball very, very deep, and it's going out of play. But Murray Wallace doesn't give up. He's come on for Joe Bryan. Obviously just managing Joe Bryan with his injury. I think Joe Bryan makes a massive difference, by the way. I'll come on to individual players later. But Murray Wallace chases it down, and he wins the corner through just a bit of argy-bargy in the corner. He does well. The corner's then swung in by Honeyman, and then again Murray Wallace out-muscles Kai at the back post and makes it 2-0. And then again, the last 10 minutes, you can just see the players relax. You really can. And that's what gives me optimism for the future, because the players did relax. I do feel there's some players that are coming slightly more back into form. The other thing as well, which I think is worth pointing out, other than Leicester, we haven't conceded a goal from open play in 5 games. We've now got 2 clean sheets on the back-to-back. Obviously, Huddersfield, Sunderland goals were a penalty. So other than Leicester, teams haven't scored again in open play against us. So we do look a little bit more defensively solid. So there are things that I'm starting to, really see some optimism, and we're kind of turning a corner. Also, Stoke battered Birmingham yesterday, and in the post match, Schumacher said he quoted us, and he said that we played. I'm quoting Stoke manager Schumacher here. We played exactly how we played against Millwall today, but the result was much different because Birmingham play a different way and give us a lot more space and a lot more open. So I read that as actually we did a very good defensive job against Stoke, who we're always going to have a new manager bound. So I know the performance wasn't great. I know we defended for most of the game, but a point at Stoke isn't the worst result. So then you look at that and you think, right, okay, well, our last 3 games, we've now got 5 points. It probably should have been 7 because we should have probably beat Huddersfield. So things are starting to kind of, that's my sort of half optimistic hat. The other half of the hat is, for me, there's a couple of things that still need to be addressed. And the first one is these silly little mistakes. The amount of times, like yesterday in the second half, Elias Chair, his one opportunity he had in the second half was where Amaku passes it to Harding, and Harding just, I don't know if he misjudges the pace of the ball. It just goes underneath his foot. Chair's in, and to be fair, Sarkic is a good save. But we're just making these silly mistakes, and at times we create our own downfalls. They need to be cut out. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing that it's definitely shown improvement, and credit to Edwards and the team for this, but I think the overall physical condition of our players is really poor compared to a lot of teams in this league. And I mean that from a couple of different perspectives. I think the first one is the players obviously were not fit, and they're now fitter. They look fitter. But the fitness levels still need improving. I think if Edwards has a full pre-season, I think you'll see some very, very different, big differences. That's the first thing. The other thing around physical conditioning is the amount of injuries that we've had in the last sort of year or two. I think it says a lot. So I think that needs to be addressed, whether that's recruitment or things behind the scenes, I don't know. And then the third thing, I think there's a couple of players that need kind of individual physical programs. And again, I'm probably going way too detailed here, but like Romain Esse, he does look like he's beefed up a little bit, by the way, Romain Esse, but he still needs to do more, because when he come on, he did get barged off the ball. He does need to sort of build that physicality a little bit more. And then someone like Cooper, he needs to be more mobile. And I don't know how you teach that of someone 6'6", but he's so flat-footed. So the whole kind of overall point I'm trying to make is the physical conditioning of some of the players needs to be addressed. So that's the second thing. And then third thing, that's kind of where I'm like glass half empty, is I think QPR are a really poor side. So I don't want us to cloud all of this on the basis of beating QPR. I think the Norwich game and then the Bristol City games will be a much bigger challenge. Both picked up victories. No, Norwich didn't win yesterday, actually. They lost at West Brom. But Bristol City had a good result away from home. So I think that will tell us a little bit more about how much we've improved. But definitely room to optimism now. I think we've got 6 points breathing space ahead of QPR now with that win. But a lot of other teams won yesterday. So, Huddersfield won, Stoke won. So we need to be winning these games, in order to make sure that we're not being sucked in. And as I say, I think, I would take 3 points from the next 2 games now. But let's see what we get. So, look, lots of reasons to be optimistic. Another clean sheet. Our form in the last few games hasn't been bad. I think the performances are changing. We look more defensively solid. Some players coming back into form. We haven't conceded a goal from open play, but then there's other things that I think we're still making two silly mistakes. Some players are still blowing out their arse and not fit enough, and then we've got tougher games to come. So it's a bit of a balance, I think. But overall, look, I'm absolutely buzzing. 2-0 win at home against a team that have been a bit of a bogey side, a team that, if I'm honest, because of things that have happened in the past, I don't really like. I see them as probably one of our, if not our biggest rivals in this league. So it was nice to beat them and roll on Friday. I'm buzzing to go to the Norwich game. Should be a good one under the lights. So I think that's the overall. I sort of go into some sort of specifics now around players. I think, going from front to back, or back to front, sorry. I think Sarkic seems to be a little bit more confident. Um, you can tell what they're trying to do at times with the ball at his feet as well. I think that's quite evident. So he seems to be coming back into a little bit of form. He has been a bit rusty, so that's good. I think just want to touch on my man in the match again was Ryan Leonard. I think he is. I've said it before. If he was a couple of years younger and he didn't have injury problems, he'd be a Premier League player. He really would be. And I know he has been for a very short period of his career, but I think he's that good. He's so consistent. And Elias Chair is a very dangerous player. And I think it says a lot about Ryan Leonard that he didn't really have much of a sniff yesterday. So hat off to Ryan Leonard. Again, I think his all-round play is superb. I thought he was brilliant. Um, I think Harding was the better of the two at Harding and Cooper. I know he did make that one error, Harding with the ball underneath his feet, but Cooper's distribution is just, I don't know. It's he gets exposed a lot. I think playing in a team that now demand more of their centre backs in terms of ball at the feet. I think his limitations were hidden a lot more in a Rowett team. And I think all the time he's going to play on a left of a free. We are going to see this. So I think I'm not saying he can't improve. We're just giving him a bumper contract. I think he's probably one of the highest earners at the club, if not the highest earner now. And, he's listen, he's been a fantastic player for this club. He's a great bloke. He's our vice captain. He'll probably go on to make, 400 appearances or whatever for Millwall. But I do think there's some things that he needs to work on. So yesterday wasn't his greatest game. I thought Joe Bryan did some really good stuff. I think it does make a big difference with him in the team versus Murray Wallace in that more of attacking mindset. Couple of stupid things he does, like there was one foul he gave away at the end of the first, was it in the first half, where it was a blatant push, and then he starts moaning to the ref, and he should know better than that. So I think, look, he's a good player, and as long as we can keep him out of them coffee shops and on the pitch, I think we're a better team for it. So, he's a very talented player. And I think we just need to manage him carefully in terms of minutes. George Saville and George Honeyman. So I'll start with George Saville. I think very close runner-up for man of the match. I thought it was, yes, a couple of misplaced passes at times. There's no doubt, but his football, IQ is just superb. The way he can manage the game at different stages. He's a real leader. He's a real driving force at times. Obviously, put on the first goal. He really, he's a different player to what he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's a vital part of this team, in my opinion. And he just gets it. And I'm a massive Saville fan, and I think he was very good yesterday. And I think that we needed an all energy midfield, and I think Honeyman complemented perfectly, because I think what Honeyman lacks in terms of, not to do him a disservice, but overall footballing ability, I think he makes up for in effort, desire, and spirit. And I think George Honeyman gets a bit of unfair criticism, to be honest, because I do see a lot of people slagging him off, and he's never going to be the best player in the world. I really don't think he is. I don't think he's technically that good, but he's never going to be one that shirks the basics ever. And in fairness to him, he's not really played in his proper position the whole time he's been here. So I thought he was good yesterday, and I thought him and Saville complemented each other really, really well. And I think both of them deserve a mention for that. In terms of the front three, so I think Watmore offered a lot more than Fleming's done in that kind of role. He's always looking to beat people. You never really know which direction he's going to go. He makes you think as a defender. He's not afraid to run at you. He'll pop up in different areas. He's industrious. He is. I've said this before, and I don't mean to discredit Duncan Watmore, but he is a slightly lesser version of Jed Wallace. He's a 7 out of 10 Jed Wallace, in my opinion. He's that kind of like road runnery type player, but I really like him, and I think he brings something. I don't think he can ever really do 90 minutes. But I thought he was really good yesterday, and a lot of the good stuff going forward we did come through him. Imaku, so he got man of the match, and a lot of people were saying he got man of the match. For me, he wasn't. I thought he was really good, and it's really nice to have a player that can get the ball, turn and knock it past someone, draw fouls in. We haven't had a player like that for some time. I think that we used to get it a little bit with Fred. But I think Imaku has got more about him, and I also feel he's he's adding more to his game in terms of his defensive duties and stuff like that, which is clearly something he's been working on. So I thought he was great. He was the one that was looking to create stuff. They were scared of him. There's no doubt about it. He's got, he's frighteningly quick, and you can tell underneath all of that kind of raw potential, there is a real hunger from him to constantly learn and improve. And I love that. The reason for me he wasn't man of the match was because at times he did make some silly choices, which he's going to because he's young and he's a kid. But that opportunity in the second half where he'd have squared it, I think we go 2-0 up on 50 minutes as opposed to 90. It changes things, and these are big moments. He also stupidly got booked, I think, after like 10 minutes by needlessly pulling someone back. So there's these types of things, and that's not to discredit his performance. I thought he was brilliant, and he definitely is a close runner-up for man of the match, but I just want to explain why I haven't given him man of the match and why I gave it to Ryan Leonard. I thought Bradshaw worked very hard. I thought his link-up play was good, and he was there in the right place, right time for the goal. I think he on the face of that, he deserved to start, and he probably deserves to start against Norwich. So, and I'm always happy for the nicest man in football. So, Bradders, if you listen to this, I'm sure you're not, I'm really, really pleased for Bradders, and love having him part of the group. Touch on a couple of subs. So, obviously Murray Wallace, created his own goal and then scored one, so he deserves a lot of credit. That was a typical Murray Wallace thing, wasn't it? Chase down a lost cause, then use your physicality to score a goal. That's Murray Wallace, and I thought he did well when he come on. Romain Esse showed glimpses again, but for me, didn't do enough to take the game by the scruff of the neck and really show this is where you need to be starting. Me. A couple of nice balls and stuff into the box, and he always gives that trickery, but want to see more from him, to be honest. And I know that's probably not a popular opinion on how popular Romain is, and I absolutely love him. I'm just telling you what I saw yesterday. Zian Fleming, I thought he did more in the 20 minutes he was on yesterday than he does for 90 when he starts, if I'm being honest. And he seemed to have a real bit between the teeth. I think, the opportunity created for Nisbet that could have and should have put us 3-0 up was brilliant. He hassled, he won the ball back, he then plays a superb slide rule pass in behind Kai. Nisbet runs on and probably should have put it the other side of the goalkeeper, and it's 3-0. But at that point, luckily for us, that didn't matter. But I thought he was good when he came on. I do, observing his body language, I can tell he's not happy with maybe the way he's being treated. If you just watch, who he shakes the hand of when he comes on and off the pitch, and at the end, I think you can read a few things there, or maybe not. Don't know, but it's the last couple of games I've noticed that. But look, I actually quite like the fact that he's pissed off he's not playing, because I'd rather have that than someone that doesn't care. And I do think he cares, and I think he's desperate to get back on to his form. And I think he will. And I think that he's never been a player that affects 90 minutes. Even when he was superb last year, he wasn't. He just had those moments of individual brilliance that would win us a game or, get us a draw or something. And looking forward to seeing more of that from him. And then Nisbet, obviously we talked about that one chance that he should have done better with. So look, that's kind of it. I've gone on for 29 minutes now. I think overall summary would be we needed that from a league table perspective, from a just lifting the crowd and probably the atmosphere in the dressing room, and Edwards probably felt he needed it. So we absolutely needed it. I think we did get a little bit of rub of the green yesterday, and we beat a very, very poor side. I think the next couple of games will really show us where we are. And then, of course, the January transfer window opens, and I fully expect us to bring in a couple of additions, probably loan because of financials. But we do that. We get Casper De Noor back. A few more players coming into form, and we should be okay. But one result and 2 wins in 14 now does not get us out of the woods just yet. And I think we just need to keep grounded on that and not get too high when we win and not too low when we lose. So look, I'll leave it there. Hope you've had a lovely Christmas. Obviously, I'll be doing a post-match after the Norwich game, so I'll speak to everyone before the new year. But thanks as always for listening, and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye for now.